Good morning. So now we will learn Biblical Greek. Let's begin with my favorite text in Matthew 10:27. Jesus is speaking here. He says to the apostles, he says, Ho lego humin ente skotia e pate ento foti ke ho istu usokuete keruzate epiton domaton. What I speak to you in the darkness, repeat in the light, and what is in your ear whispered, preach, proclaim upon the housetops. So today I'm going to teach you how to, read and write Koine Greek, Biblical Greek. We call it Koine Greek or simply New Testament Greek. Koine means common in Greek because it's the common tongue. It's not the classical Greek in comparison to some classical writings like Plato and the other Socratic papers. Well, Plato also wrote that. Anyway, let's begin. So Greek is similar to our modern alphabet, and most of you are familiar with the Greek alphabet. As you have seen in my Greek New Testament, Novum Testamentum Graeci, New Testament Greek, this is Nestle Aland number 25. You will see that they are written in the lowercase form. You are more probably familiar with the uppercase form. Now, original manuscripts are written almost all in, probably all in uppercase form without spacing. It's very hard actually. But published Greek Bibles are published like that. Only the first letters of a sentence or a proper noun like in English are in the uppercase form. So we will learn the lowercase form now and maybe the uppercase form also. Let's begin. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Because I realize in my Hebrew that some parts are out of the focus, out of the range. So we begin with, this is the uppercase form, alpha. You know this. This is alpha. The name is alpha. Yung mga frat men dyan, you will know this. And then this is beta. Obviously the uppercase and the lowercase. As I mentioned earlier, learn more the lowercase than the uppercase. You will learn the uppercase naturally, I think. So this is beta. And then you have the gamma. This is a little bit different. That's the uppercase form of gamma, at least the way I write it. And the lowercase form is this. That's gamma. And then you have delta. So it's like letter A, B, G, and letter D, delta. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. We have epsilon. Epsilon is like our letter E, right? And the lowercase is like that. That's epsilon. That's our, you can say short e because there will be another e later on. That's epsilon. And then you have zeta, or the lowercase, it's like that. Catherine Zeta-Jones. And then you have the eta. This is a little bit confusing because it looks like letter H, but it's not. This is eta. So the difference between eta and epsilon is this is long E, long vowel. So sometimes it helps if you pronounce it as epsilon, short e, and eta. So it's like there's a letter Y there, A, right? So usually you will, in what we read earlier, there's an ain. So it's eta and nun, so it's ain. So like that. And then after eta, you have another popular word I think you will know is, that's the uppercase and lowercase and uppercase. This is called theta, where we get the word theology, theta. Okay, and then a letter we know, iota. That's iota, small. And then another letter we know also, kappa. Notice that the lowercase k does not extend all the way up, and like our English K for the lowercase. So it's like a tiny version of the bigger case. And then you have lambda. Notice that lambda, capital letter lambda, is similar to delta without the base line there, or the hypotenuse. If this is a triangle, I think it's what it's called. And then the lowercase is like that, lambda, lambda. And then we have another, at least in the lowercase, uppercase, we know the mu. The lowercase is that, right, mu. And then here you might be confused with the lowercase because the uppercase is quite familiar with us. This is the nun, but the lowercase is like our letter V. So this is the uppercase, but this is the lowercase. Okay, so that's nun. And then we have a letter that we are not familiar with, at least the form. The lowercase is like this. The uppercase is like that. The lowercase is like that. This is their xi. So it's like our letter X. Doesn't look like our X. There will be a letter that looks like an X, but it's not an X. This is the X, xi. Okay, and then we have very common for us, both in the upper and lower cases. This is the Omicron, O, and then we have math lovers, of course, the pi. This is the pi. We call it in math they call it the pi because it's English, right? But probably it's p. So it's p or pi, whatever you want to say. And then we have another letter that we might be confused with because it looks like our letter P. But this is the R for Greek. Okay? Rho. And then we have this letter here. This is the upper case. This is sigma. And the lower case has two versions. Remember, in the Hebrew we have the final form. This is the only letter in Greek that has a final form. The final form first is like our letter S, a little bit different, but it's like that. Right? So this is the final form, and let's put a comma. And the usual form is like this. So this is sigma. So if you find sigma in any other part of the word aside from the final, it will appear like that. At the beginning, if it's a proper noun, of course, it appears like that. But if it's in the final part, or the final letter of a word, it is like that. Kind of like a small, very similar to our letter S, actually. So that's sigma, and then we have another easy for us, tau. This is letter T. So remember, this is tau, this is theta. So this is alveolar, theta. This is dental, right? Tau. Is it? I forgot my IPA, but yeah. So you have let me check that later on. Okay. But this is a fricative. This is a stop. Yeah. So that's Tao, and that's theology. And then we have another word, another letter that might confuse us. Okay, the uppercase is like our letter Y, and the lowercase is like our letter U. This is Epsilon. So just remember, it's U, it's not Y. And then we have those who are in philosophy will understand this. Oh, or well, this is a very popular letter for frats. The Phi. The Phi. And you write it like that in lowercase. Phi. It sounds like our letter F. Phi. Philosophy, that's why I say. And then this, don't get confused with this. This looks like our letter X. And the small case is similar. This is the, this is not X, this is K. So it's like CH, like the word Christos. Christos is, this is the start of the word Christos. That's why you will find in some of the shields of the of Constantine's army during his the civil war. So they put an X on their shields that signifies Christ. So that's not an X, that's a letter Chi, which is the beginning of the word Christos. And then for our psychology people there, you know this. What is that? Okay, that's the psi, or in small letter it's kind of the same. That's why we have the word psychology. So this is the sound ps. So it's like PS. So I can't think of a Greek word now, but yeah, ps. Yeah. So that's that. And then the final word, the beginning is alpha. For us, the final is ze. But in Greek, the first letter is alpha. The last letter is, yes, of course. Oh, this should be long. Okay. Omega. This is omega. This is like W in the lowercase form, and you know this. This is the symbol for ohm. Those who are interested in electronics, you should know this. This is omega, and this is O. So what's the difference between omicron and omega? It's like the difference between eta and epsilon. One is short and one is long, kind of like a diphthong. We will not study diphthong today because it's a little bit easier for us, especially those who understand English, who reads English already. The diphthongs in Greek are quite similar to the diphthongs that you will find in English, like AU, AO, AI, you know, IO, EO, things like that. And the pronunciation of the diphthongs actually differ. I forgot how they call it. Maybe they call it the Erasmian because of Erasmus. The Erasmian pronunciation is very much like an American English pronunciation. I don't really care about it. Sometimes I pronounce it that way because it's easier to read it that way. They will read it as, for example, if you have the very common word kai, which means and, a conjunction, they will read this as a diphthong I, so they will say kai. I like the other pronunciation. I forgot what it's called also, but it's a pronunciation that's, I think might be logically closer to the Koine Greek, but at least nevertheless it's closer to modern Greek. In my favorite audiobook of Greek that I listened to is a 1903 recording of the New Testament, and it's easily available in the Bible app. They pronounce it as ke, So the diphthongs, we can study that, but it's not, I would say, very important, at least not for now. So another thing that you will notice, there's no letter H, like ha ha ha, but they have that sound H, but they don't have a grapheme for H. What they do have is a diacritic mark for H, and most of the time, well, all the time, Greek words that start with vowels would have a mark. It's either this mark or this mark. For example, if you have O, you can have this mark, or you can have that mark. That's called breathing marks. But actually, for now, what we need, this is called the smooth breathing mark. Don't worry about it, you don't pronounce it. This is important because you pronounce it. This is not part of the alphabet, that this is part of the phoneme of Koine Greek. It's a sound for them. It's the letter H. So if you find a vowel that starts with letter H, a vowel which has kind of like an open quotation mark on top of it or before it, if it's a uppercase letter, it usually comes before it, upper left corner, you pronounce it not as O but Ho. So if you have let's say, just an example, you have this, and then you have this is E, this is He. So there's a H there, which is a glottal fricative, right? H, voiceless glottal fricative. Okay, so I can teach you an alphabet song here. I don't know one. I can invent one, but you won't like it. But it's easy enough. Just memorize it. That way, write it, you will memorize it. Now we will read. We will start to read Greek New Testament. And where do we begin? But at the very beginning. Okay. Kata Ioannin. Kata Ioannin means from John. Let me zoom it. Okay, so now that we know how to write New Testament Greek, let's try to read, even if we don't understand it. Okay, let me make sure it's there. Okay, this is John 1:1. That's a smooth breathing mark, you don't pronounce it. En arche, en, that's a rough breathing mark. Ho, en arche, en ho logos, ke ho logos, en pros ton theon, ke theos, en ho logos. Sorry, there's no intonation there. But if you read it like as close as we can, en arche, en ho logos, ke ho logos, en pros ton theon, ke theos, en ho logos. In beginning was, or it was, the Word, and the Word was with the God, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's fun to read New Testament Greek, at least for now. Just read it. That's how we started learning English, right? We just read and read and read and read. Our teachers asked us to read, and we didn't understand probably more than half of what we read, but we can read and we're happy to read. So I encourage you, especially during this quarantine, to read biblical Greek, and later on we'll continue this program and I'll teach you a little bit more of Hebrew and Greek, grammar and whatnot. Thank you very much. God bless you.